Okay, let's dive right in. The story we're about to unravel, it sounds like something straight out of a thriller, but it is disturbingly real. We're talking about a world of staggering wealth, deeply buried secrets, and a web of power that operated just beneath the surface for decades.
So, I want you to picture this. It's 2005. We're in the Caribbean Sea. There's this tiny private island, completely off the grid. No tourists, no reporters, just pure isolation. On the outside, it looked like the ultimate paradise.
I mean, it had everything you could imagine, right? White sand beaches, luxury villas, a private dock, the whole 9 yards. A perfect escape. But what was happening behind those closed doors was anything but a paradise.
And this is where things get really dark. We're not talking about some movie plot here. US investigation records later confirmed this was one of the most horrifying crimes of our time. Young women, some just girls, were brought to this island, lured with false promises of jobs or help, only to be trapped in an absolute nightmare.
So, who was the mastermind behind this secret empire? Well, publicly, he was known as this billionaire financier, rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. But his real identity, where his power actually came from, that was a complete mystery for years. His name, of course, was Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, the first whispers of trouble came out of Palm Beach, Florida. A few teenage girls came forward with some pretty serious allegations. But at the time, nobody, and I mean nobody, could have imagined this would blow up into a global scandal. A scandal that would expose not just one man, but a catastrophic breakdown of the very systems meant to protect people.
And then, in 2019, it seemed like the walls were finally closing in. Epstein was arrested. But that arrest didn't really bring any answers. In fact, it just made everything murkier, especially after his death in custody. It left this giant lingering question mark hanging over everything. How on earth did he get away with this for so long?
Right. So that's the big question, isn't it? How does a guy from a totally normal background climb so high and build this dark empire? To even begin to understand that, we gotta rewind and go all the way back to his origins.
Okay, so take a look at this. Born in Brooklyn, a completely average middle-class family. Dad worked for the government, mom was a school assistant. He even went to college, but never actually finished his degree. There is literally nothing here that screams future billionaire tycoon.
And this is where the story takes its first really bizarre turn. He starts out in the early 70s teaching math and physics at a fancy private school. This is his first taste of the world of New York's elite. But then, boom. In 1976, he's suddenly on Wall Street at a top investment bank. The crazy part? No degree, no background in finance. It just happens. And that's the question that stumped investigators for years. How did he pull that off?
Which leads us to the absolute core of this whole thing, the money. How did this guy make hundreds of millions of dollars? You'd think there'd be a clear answer, right? A company, an invention, something. But with Epstein, when you start digging for the source of his fortune, you find nothing. It's just a complete financial black box. This chart really spells it out perfectly. On one side, you've got your typical billionaire. You can track their money through public companies, stock filings. It's mostly out in the open. Then you look at Epstein's side. It's the complete opposite. Opaque companies, secret clients, a maze of private trusts. His entire model was built on secrecy, not transparency.
Yeah, he claimed he only worked for super rich clients whose names had to be kept secret. I mean, that's a massive red flag right there. He was basically doing the exact opposite of what the finance industry is supposed to do. And you've got to understand, this wasn't just about dodging taxes. This was about creating a system where nobody could ever figure out where his money was coming from or where it was going.
Okay, now here's a huge piece of the puzzle. This connection to Leslie Wexner, a massive American billionaire. Wexner gave Epstein something almost unheard of: power of attorney over his entire fortune. Think about that. And almost overnight, Epstein's life completely transforms. Suddenly, he's got the New York mansion, the private jets, the whole billionaire lifestyle. But here's the kicker. It still doesn't explain how Epstein made his own hundreds of millions.
So let's just stop and ask, if he wasn't really a normal money manager, what was he? What was his actual job? Well, the theory that's gained the most traction is that his real business wasn't managing money. It was managing people. His product was access and influence.
This here is basically his playbook, his method. Step 1, manage connections, not just cash. He was the guy who introduced powerful person A to powerful person B. Step 2, he operated in what you could call a no-record zone. Meetings weren't in boardrooms, they were on private jets in his mansion on his island. Step 3, he controlled who got to meet whom, becoming a gatekeeper. And that all leads to step 4, he became a power broker, where the currency wasn't dollars, it was secrets and influence.
And look at how unconventional his whole setup was. He didn't have a big corporate office in a skyscraper. He worked out of that huge New York mansion. No thousands of employees, no annual reports, no big stock market wins to his name. It all points to one thing. Secrecy wasn't just part of his business model. Secrecy was his business model.
So even after everything, all the investigations, the nonstop media coverage, we're still left with more questions than answers. The biggest mysteries are still just sitting there, completely unsolved.
And it brings us to this fundamental question. Was this guy some kind of self-made financial genius, or was he just a piece in a much, much bigger game? A lot of people believe he wasn't just an investor, he was an information broker, trading secrets for powerful people, and that his money wasn't something he earned, but something he was given in exchange for providing some kind of dark, hidden service. The whole truth? Well, it's probably something we'll never know. And that's really the final takeaway here. Is this just a story about one monstrous man's secrets? Or is it a story about a system that was built to protect those secrets? It really forces you to look past the individual and ask some hard questions about the networks of power that let this go on for so long. And that's the truly chilling part, isn't it? That sometimes the biggest threat isn't the monster acting alone, but the system that quietly looks the other way.